Welcome to the Cohen Curricula. In your pack you will see a worksheet and you will see on the title something that says LIMP. And we're not talking about someone who's got a gammy leg, we're actually talking about a process that I use to take students through deconstructing text that actually brings out the thinking I want. There's a whole lot of prompt questions. You've got a workshop with prompt questions and you've got a blank worksheet so that you can actually go and look for these things in your text. And the more of them you do, the more interesting your text is going to become. It actually engages you in the thinking process. As you will have noticed with my study guides, they're not about giving you the answers, they're actually about giving you skills. So we want to be enriched by text. Every text you engage with offers you something if you will only engage with it. So let's have a look at what LIMP is. You've got a very detailed definition of each of these in your text, and if your teacher has purchased this, they've actually got a detailed definition. But I'm just going to give you a quick rundown. So literal, LIMP, literal, inferential, metaphysical and philosophical. So the literal is about the things that are explicit in your text. It might be an explicit piece of language, it might be an explicit symbol, some explicit example in your text with no hidden meaning. So if you're doing discovery, you found something. So when I was little, if I could actually find the threepenny bit that was in my grandma's pudding, I was the winner. And I don't know what threepenny bits bought, probably 4 pieces of licorice, but it had no hidden meaning. I was looking for something. If I discovered it, it was the most exciting moment to actually discover that. So literal is looking for those things that are explicit. Inferential, of course, is then looking at where there's inference. Inference is actually quite hard to find. So some hints here would be to look at the way in which tone is constructed in your text. Tone's always constructed through verbs and adverbs. It tells us how somebody speaks, so it's very different if somebody whispers something than if somebody yells something. So we can actually tell what mood somebody's in or what tension's going on in the scene. It's inferred for us through the language that they use. Look for that inference. You're starting to get to another level then of meaning, and it demonstrates to the markers that you're not just seeing the literal, you're not seeing the obvious, you actually understand that that obvious thing has other connotations. So for example, when I found the threepenny bit, the inference there would be that I was the one who was the winner that day. It was very exciting. Only one threepenny bit went in every Christmas. The metaphysical is really looking then at what your text is saying that's deeply spiritual. Every one of us can engage with text in a way that we start to feel the way the characters feel. We actually start to take on their anger, their tension, their joy, their happiness. So we're looking at spirituality. It's that symbiotic relationship between our mind and our spirit, how the language of the text reveals the impact of the events or other characters on us as the reader. So we actually start to feel something. And that feeling, it can be visceral. We can be reading Frank McCourt's Angela's Ashes, and if we're sucking the snot, then we feel physically violent, but we could also feel or smell something. Sentience is a very powerful metaphysical tool that's used in text. Look for sentience, so that's sensory imagery. Philosophical is really important. If you've actually managed to get through these layers and you've actually found those depths, this is the final layer that really gives you something in your analysis. It gives you something in those concluding paragraphs and in your concluding sentences that really is going to jar the marker. Think about what questions your texts pose. Now, your text might provoke you to challenge social expectations, and you may have a protagonist in there that does push the boundaries of social expectations for good or for bad. What is the implications of that? It's all about asking questions of the text. Why has the composer constructed this text? What paradigms are in the text that are contrived or constructed to make us challenge ourselves or to challenge others? We need to think if we're being challenged in the text by the prejudices. We might read something that is quite explicitly racist and makes us feel uncomfortable, or we might agree with that. So we have to look at examining our own perspective. If you were doing go back to where you came from, there's a range of characters in that text who have very definite perspectives. Well, we want to challenge those. How does somebody come to that place in their life where they think in that way, and how does that impact on us when they change? So always question how the composer uses language. Always question the paradigms that are in text. If you follow LIMP and if you go through this process, use the worksheets. You've got prompts, and they're quite detailed prompts in the workshop, and question yourself on those aspects of your text. Don't just look at who wrote the text and when it was written and what the story is about. That's not going to take you to those richer, deeper meanings you're looking for. Work yourself through the process using the prompts, and I promise you, you will actually really start to engage and be enriched by your text. Thank you.